Hello, I'm Anna Delaney, Director of Productions here at ISMG. A perfect storm is brewing for fraudsters. On one hand, the economic turmoil triggered by the pandemic is increasing and accelerating insurance fraud. On the other, we see the insurance industry move many of the business processes online, something which the criminals love too. I'm joined today by David Hartley, Global Director for Fraud and Financial Crime Practice at SAS, who'll be discussing how we can better identify insurance fraud. The devil is in the data. Thanks so much for joining us, David.
Pleasure to be here, Anna.
So, David, I'd like to hear your perspective. Talk us through the various typologies of fraud you're seeing in this perfect storm I just described.
Yeah, I think it is a perfect storm. And I think what we're looking to see is just an acceleration of a lot of the things that we've been seeing over the years. We'd certainly expect to see more opportunistic fraud, simply because more and more people are going to be under economic pressure in different geographies, just because of the recession that's linked into the pandemic that we're unfortunately all still experiencing. So we would certainly expect to see that continue to grow. Previous studies have shown that that's exactly what will happen. We also continue to see, I think, a lot of increase in organized fraud. And particularly linked, I think, with the last point you made, that insurers many have been going down digital transformation strategies, all good, all positive. But the pandemic, if anything, has just shunted that along at a further speed. And often within those transformation programs, they forget about the bad. And we often talk about something called the armchair fraudster. It actually just makes it easier for somebody sat in the luxury of their own environment to not talk with a human, no HI. And so it just makes it, I think, insurance more open for fraud. And we're definitely seeing that now happening.
Right. And so what challenges do insurers face when it comes to detecting and preventing these types of fraud you just mentioned?
Yeah, prioritization and speed, I think, are probably the words that automatically come to mind. Having resources available to be able to do that, and having the insight to be able to do it, and the ability to react quickly. Fraud continues to evolve. There's no doubt about that. And we're seeing different frauds. We're actually interesting. We're seeing different new emerging fraud schemes, but also the re-emergence of some existing fraud schemes that perhaps we thought had gone, morphed, and came. So, I think it's having that eye, and it's a different eye on the customer, but not in a way that's we know reducing false positives is critical in every insurer that we work in, but really not to lose sight of, in this changing environment, that there are people and organizations and households and that are out to take money out of the insurer that they shouldn't be taking.
So, David, we began by saying the devil is in the data. So how can insurers make better use of their data to identify and protect against fraud?
Yeah, lots and lots of things we could talk about here, Anna. I think for me, there's a number of factors. The devil is indeed in the data, and what we mean by that is that often people struggle to see things that is in the data just because of their human minds. I tell a story, and Anna, it's actually going to involve your lovely names, so please bear with me. I was at an insurance company in Europe a few years ago, and we were talking about the use of analytics and the generation of entities and networks and looking for unexplained relationships. And the head of claims stopped me and said, "Mr. Hartley, we do not need your software. We have Anna." And so I've been around software and insurance for many decades now, and I've never heard of a system called Anna. And Anna and analytical navigation, I didn't know what Anna stood for. So, and of course, Anna was, of course, a lovely lady who worked in the claims team, who had a semi-photographic memory and had seen, I think it was 3 or 4 recent claims that had come in using the same mobile phone number as that unexplained relationship. So again, if you have Annas in your insurance companies, maybe you don't need this. And I think that's the critical thing. Good analytics allows you to see things in the data that people don't necessarily understand. And then great analytics ensures that you can push that into the business and the business can understand it. That itself is a real challenge to ensure that people that don't have data science minds can actually understand, why am I looking at this network of alerts, etc., etc.
So there is an issue here. Customers want it easy, they want it quick, they want convenient ways, quite rightly, to research rates and submit policy applications online. So what's the key to building defenses whilst avoiding customer friction?
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, my background is setting up a couple of direct insurers in the UK decades ago, and there's no doubt people looking for convenience, they're looking for everything that you've just talked about. For an insurer, though, it's also critical that the insurer can look for misrepresentation. People that are deliberately not sharing accurate information about themselves or coming back and looking at quotes. So, I mean, the key thing always is about STP, about straight through processing, whether that's for claims or whether it's for new business, and to be able to do that accurately. And it's really just identifying individual transactions, whether it's new business or claims, that looks a bit strange. So why is misrepresentation so important? So it's not just that the insured or the insured has paid potentially significantly less than they should have, but on your policy system, you believe the risk is perhaps a 55-year-old male living in the countryside, in motor insurance, good driving history, etc., when actually it's maybe a young driver, a 22-year-old with poor driving experience with claims, living in an inner city. But actually the worst thing is it's in the system, so it's believed. And so when you come to your rate making reviews, you're doing it on dodgy data. Misrepresentation goes right the way through, but the customer journey is important. And so having really good analytics at the front end that keeps that false positive as low as possible is so fundamentally important, and is something that, I think a lot of insurers need and analytics can deliver on.
So finally, David, tell us about SAS. How are you actually helping insurance companies develop strong anti-fraud capabilities and strategies?
Combination of really 5 things, I would say. And it's a bit of a cliche: people, process, technology. It's also data, and it's analytics. I mean, it's bringing those things together. Our software on its own it's just software. Without really good people with well thought out processes, it doesn't work. We're very blessed. We work with about 120 insurers, including a number of country specific consortiums that look at organized fraud in a number of countries, 10 of those in fact. And we provide them with insight into their data and great analytical tools, including integration to open source tools as required now. But we've also thought through very carefully is, how do you take these analytical alerts and present them into the business in a way that is understandable, that is business logic, rather than, is just a model score. And so we've got customers who've been with us on this journey for 10, 15 years, who continue to get value out of their investment in our technology.
Great. Well, David, it's been a pleasure talking with you. Thank you so much for your insight.
My pleasure. Thanks, Anna.
I've been speaking with David Hartley, Global Director for Fraud and Financial Crime Practice at SAS, and for ISMG, I'm Anna Delaney.